everyone! Today, because I'm looking top notch, I thought, why not share my top favourite books of 2017 with you? I really tried to make that into a pun, but it completely failed, and I'm sorry, and please love me. But anyway, these are the books that I've loved this year. They're all standalones, so if one takes your fancy, you can just go and grab a copy, go to your local bookstore or a library, or shop online and grab it. I assure you, all of these were 5-star reads for me and I really loved them, so if you haven't read one of these, go pick it up. The first book I want to share with you is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. If you don't know this book, where have you been living? This book has been plastered all over social media. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for 6 weeks in a row at number 1. It's just phenomenal. It dropped off to number 2 for a week, but now it's back at number 1, slaying the charts. Go The Hate You Give! I actually had the pleasure of interviewing the author, Angie Thomas, a couple months ago, and that was an amazing experience. If you want to check out that interview, I'll leave a link down below. So basically, The Hate You Give is about a 16-year-old woman of color living in kind of two worlds. She lives in a poor neighborhood where she was born and raised, and it's described as ghetto by some of the other characters, and she goes to a really posh school and most of the people there are white. But what serves as the catalyst for this novel is when Star witnesses the shooting of her best friend by a policeman, and her best friend was unarmed. It's a really confronting and raw read, but it is so powerful, and I think everyone has to pick up this book. I've recommended this book to teenagers and adults, and I've passed on my copy to my family members, and I just highly recommend grabbing a copy if you haven't already. The next book I have to share with you is Queens of Geek by Jen Wilde. This one is adorable. It's about 3 best friends who fly to America to go to a geeky convention. They're really into fandoms and they're super cute. This book also has amazing representation. There's a girl with autism spectrum disorder in it, a bisexual Chinese-Australian girl, and a cute female-female relationship. It's also filled to the brim with positive comments about your life and about accepting who you are and accepting your body and accepting your nerdiness and embracing that. For anyone who considers themselves a fangirl or loves going to conventions, this book is for you. Go pick up a copy! The next book I want to show you, I only finished really recently, but it has already become one of my favourite books of this year so far. And that book is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. Oseman. This book wasn't released this year, but because I only read it really recently, I'm considering it one of my favourites of this year. For those of you that don't know, this book follows the life of a girl called Frances at high school. She's considered a study machine because she's always working and she wants to go to law school, I think. She has really high expectations of herself and she puts a lot of pressure on herself too. But beneath the facade that she wears at school, she is a really geeky, nerdy person like myself. She loves this crazy podcast called University, and if you know the podcast Welcome to Night Vale, University is really similar to that. I adored this book because I love listening to podcasts and the main character is bisexual and the person she's closest with, they don't have a romantic relationship. And I feel like that was really refreshing. Honestly, if you haven't read this one, go pick it up. The second last book I want to share with you is More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. This book wasn't released this year, but I read his other book, History Is All You Left Me, at the beginning of this year, and I adored it. I'd heard amazing things about More Happy Than Not, but I hadn't picked it up until a few months ago. I guess you could say this book is set in an alternate version of our world. It follows the life of this guy called Aaron who's struggling to find happiness after a family tragedy. But in this alternate version of the world, you can have a memory-altering procedure to make you forget the past or remember it in a different way. So this book is not only about whether the procedure is legit or dangerous, but it's also about Aaron's life and his traumatic past and what really happened. As I mentioned before, I loved Adam Silvera's other book, History Is All You Left Me, but I loved More Happy Than Not even more. It was incredible. And finally, another one of my favourites for 2017. This one wasn't released this year either, but I read it recently and I just adored it. And that one is We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchison. I've been hearing a lot about this book from Twitter and I've been seeing this cover around for ages and I thought I really need to grab a copy. I heard that it was kind of strange and like a bit of sci-fi mixed into contemporary, and that's exactly what it is. It's kind of hard to explain what this book is about without it sounding really strange, but I'm gonna try anyways. So basically, it's about this boy in high school who keeps getting abducted by aliens, and they want him to press a button that will save the world from destruction. But he doesn't know if he wants to press the button to save the world or not. He knows that the end of the world is coming, but he doesn't yet know whether humanity is worth saving or not. So this whole book is kind of about finding himself and finding the reason to live. It's a really poignant, moving book, and I just adored it. So yeah, those are my favourite books of 2017 so far. Not all of them have been released this year, but they are all definitely worthy of being on my list. I adored all of them, and if they sound like something you'd be interested in reading, I highly recommend picking up a copy. I know that there are heaps of new books coming out soon, and I cannot wait to get my hands on them. I'm sure that my top 5 books of 2017 might change before the end of the year, but these ones were amazing. So yeah, that's it for today's video. If you liked it, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. What are your top 5 favourite books of 2017 so far? What books are you looking forward to reading? I'd love to know. Bye everyone!